Welcome, listeners. Today we are here interviewing Joshua Smith, who is running for the LNC chair at the 2018 Libertarian National Convention. Glad to have you here, Joshua.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yep. Really glad that you accepted this interview, and we're happy to give a voice to people running for the LNC. So first, I'd like to ask you about your background. What's been your involvement in the liberty movement overall?
I think I really started being pushed that direction while serving in the U.S. Navy. I was aboard the USS Constellation during Operation Iraqi Freedom, and we were the ship that carried the bulk of the shock and awe campaign in Baghdad. I remember seeing our aircraft leaving full of ordnance all day long and then coming back empty, and it really got me thinking to myself that not only were we throwing tons of resources away, we were bombing cities that housed thousands and thousands of people that weren't involved in the conflict. Much like one of our big cities here. And I think it was that realization that made me start to worry about our military industrial complex. And not too much longer after getting out of the military in 2005, I was watching the news and heard Dr. Ron Paul speak about the dangers of the military industrial complex and foreign interventionism. And it just really clicked with me. I believe, yeah, it was about 2005, 2006, maybe somewhere in there. And it didn't really single-handedly push me to libertarianism or the party, but it did make me start picking up books, such as those written by Milton Friedman and F.A. Hayek and Murray Rothbard, and really learning about the philosophy of liberty and how that could be involved in bringing peace among people. And soon after that, I was kind of following the rabbit hole of liberty on the interwebs, and I found Adam Kokesh, and this man kind of pushed me towards activism. Most of the time we think of anti-war protesters as like the hippies in the 60s, and some people don't want to be associated with that image. But here was a guy in plain view, a veteran like myself, protesting foreign interventionism and bad laws and just a complete overreach of the U.S. government. And this was the first time I can remember wanting to be a part of this movement. I think I signed up for my first round of the LP quickly after that, believing it to be the vessel that would move our country forward to a more prosperous and free society. And I think I spent 3 months with the party donating, and I was, met with a wall of silence. I had no information on how to get a hold of my local affiliate or work with the state party or any of that stuff. And so I just dropped my donations and started becoming more of an activist. I worked on a couple little local campaigns, and fast forward several years, about a year ago, I've been involved with a couple different liberty publications. I helped to start Dankitarians, which kind of tanked and was taken over by some other people. And then I founded Think Liberty. And I really wanted to be a bigger part of the movement. I know I have the passion for liberty. And so I joined the party, my local affiliate. I became the communications manager after our first meeting. And then I went up to the state convention, and they made me the Region 5 rep for the state at my first meeting with the state party. And so it's kind of just been a very fast progression with the party. But as far as the movement and the principles and the activism, that's been going on for 10 years. So.
Wow. So yeah, that's kind of what happens with these small parties, just like straight shoot up to the top because they need to fill all the spots.
Yeah. And if somebody's super passionate about it, I think we really need to look outside of the box and not really hold our leadership to a standard of who's the best at holding a meeting or holding a convention, and really start looking for the people who are passionate about the philosophy and want to move this party in a direction that can be successful on a national scale. So.
All right. Well, this kind of leads into the next question, which is kind of at the end of this whole background thing, brings us to where we are today. What made you want to run for the LNC chairman?
I think, I'm watching kind of the trending of our party currently. We've lost 4,500 members since January, which is a 24% net loss. And 2,000 of those members were in August alone. I spoke about that in some of my other videos. But I think without getting too much into what I feel is the cause of these losses, we can really look at this as a retention problem, no matter what excuse we want to make for those losses. And I was watching a lot of people make excuses for all of these issues. Our outreach, our education, our messaging, our retention trends, and nobody was stepping up to do anything, and like I said, I'm very passionate about the philosophy. I'm very passionate about the party. I think we can be a very successful third party. So after, about a year or so of listening to everyone bitch about things and not do anything, I said, you know what, I can do this. So I just stepped up and decided to put my name out there and see what happens. So
Awesome. So, of course, we're going to have to talk about the current chairman, Nicholas Starr, kind of become a contentious figure in the liberty movement. People have very differing opinions about him. Obviously, something about the status quo with the LP isn't right. That's why you're running, of course. But what do you think of Nicholas Starr and his actions?
Without trying to drag Nicholas through the mud too much, I think he's done a lot of really good things for the party. Obviously he's done a lot of pro bono legal work, which is huge for us, and he's worked on a lot of ballot initiatives and he's done some good stuff. But the role of the chair is to be a spokesman of the party and not to go around pissing off people, but to look for ways to retain members and grow the party through new membership. and the best time to do that is year one, and not to wait till year 3 after an election year. So retention has been a problem for many, many years in the LP, and the time to address that was yesterday. And I think spending a lot of your time online arguing with people and having emotional outbursts at respected libertarian philosophers and economists is just not the best way to move our party forward. It's definitely not going to help herd the cats, So obviously the LP has been compared to trying to herd cats because we have the anarchists and we have the minarchists and we have the classical liberals, and trying to get them all together on the same page can be pretty hard. And I think I don't think that is being done well currently. So.
All right, awesome. Well, you kind of mentioned the different sects of libertarianism right there. What would you mark yourself as? I see you got a little ANCAP ball in the background.
Yeah, so I'm, obviously I really like old Rothbard, and I do like the philosophy of anarchism. I think it's great. I think to be able to live our own lives free is the direction we should be heading. And one of the other founders of Think Liberty, her name's Caitlin Cloven. She'll tell you the same thing. I don't think there's any use in arguing over the last 3 exits of a 3,000-mile journey. So while I may subscribe to voluntarism, which I think is, if I had to call myself anything, it would just be a voluntarist. I believe that everything should be, non-coercion, non-aggression, and by choice. I do believe that there's room for all of us in the party. So.
Love it. Okay, well, now I'd like to talk about Gary Johnson, because, of course, he's what brought a lot of the people to the Libertarian Party, even though, obviously, we're not retaining many of them, or as many as we'd like. So, what did you like, and what did you dislike about Gary Johnson in the 2016 election?
For me, Gary was the epitome of what the problems with the LP are currently. His heart was in the right place. He really wanted to push for liberty, and that's great. That's what we should be doing. But I think his messaging was off. I think he did draw on a bunch of people to the party, but obviously a lot of those people left after the election because some of those ideals probably weren't described to them in a clear and concise way, if you will. But I liked Gary. I thought Gary was great, and obviously he did a lot of good things for our membership at the time, at least during an election year. And I don't really have a lot of bad things to say. That they put out the Judd Weiss report on the Tom Woods show, and it made a lot of people really, really hate Gary, and I can understand that. But at the same time, I think he has done a lot of good things for libertarianism as well. And as a Republican in New Mexico, he did a lot of great things for the people in New Mexico as well. I think he slashed taxes 8 times or something like that. And so I think Gary's great. I think he was good for the movement. I just think that we need a more principled libertarian at the helm. So
makes sense. So we already talked about the LP as a whole, kind of the current state of where it is. But what specifically would you change about the LP?
Right. So I have an actual, obviously this is anecdotal evidence, but it's kind of the same as my story. I have a really good friend. He was very excited to join the LP, and he started helping, and he jumped right in. He set up his monthly donations to the LP National and started actively searching avenues to help. He's a marketing master and a graphic design master. He built the Think Liberty website. He builds websites for candidates all over the country. And his first step was him trying to get a hold of our national chair to ask where he could help the LP. And he was met with someone who was undoubtedly too busy to give a helping hand. He then reached out to his state party and wasn't even responded to. And by the time he had finally found his way to his local affiliate, it had been 6 months or more, I believe. And, this friend does tons of work for the movement, but has since pulled his donation after 6 months of not being able to find out where he could help. I think first and foremost, that not giving the information on how to get involved to valuable assets like my friend is totally unacceptable. I think, with a Facebook page that has 800,000 followers, a Twitter that has over 118,000 followers, and who knows how many the Snapchat has. Obviously right now there's a lot of good stuff on the national social media platforms, and I don't dislike it. However, it reads a little closer to the strategy of a publication, in my opinion, and that can certainly be improved upon. I definitely would like to see us become more principled in our messaging. And when I say that, I don't mean to go out and piss everybody off like some of the upper echelon of the leadership would do currently. I think we need to be really vocal about those within the movement that wish to subvert our message into something that fits their agendas, whether it be the violent socialists that are intent on damaging those principles that support free trade, or on the other side of the coin, the violent members of the alt-right who wish to espouse our principles in support of an ethno-state. I think we cannot be willing to twist our platforms to fit those who don't agree with them. And sometimes I see leadership, take one side or the other, obviously with, things like calling out Tom Woods and the Mises Institute. That's fine. Call out the people you think you have a problem with, but don't leave the other side to just stand there and have no one call them out. Obviously marketing is a huge thing to me. I wish to see an omni-channel marketing campaign with very specific goals in mind. I think there's a lot of things we must do as national, and there are a lot of things that come up from the state parties that could use more support. And I envision a national party that utilizes its digital reach to help try and solve problems that are being experienced by the state affiliates. So, all these different marketing campaigns that are seemingly fluid between each, so.
All right. So both you and your friend seem to have experienced your first go around with the LP, just a big wall, and nobody talked to you and nobody really got back to you, kind of running like a government bureaucracy.
Right.
But of course now you've gotten actually involved. What do you think went different the second time?
Well, it was a lot easier. So in Washington, this was in California when I first joined the LP. And I think Washington State, where I live now, they have their stuff together. They seem to be running a much better machine here for liberty than what I had experienced in the past. And I know that a lot of this falls on the state parties. I mean, they're, and the state parties seem to be rocking a lot better than they used to be 10 years ago. But, I reached out to a website and I got a response. And I think even then it took me 3 or 4 weeks before I found my local affiliate. I think obviously I was a little older and a little more strong in my reserve when it came to wanting to spread the ideals of liberty. And so reaching out to the local affiliate seemed to help a lot more than me trying to reach out to national prior. But, like I said, back then, I didn't even know how to reach out to the local affiliate in California, or if there was even a local affiliate to begin with, So I think the state parties are running a little more solid now. And I think that has a lot to do with the state retention, because a lot of the states are actually retaining membership much better than national is, or much better than they had in the past. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
All right. So just both local and state-based movements. Yeah, that makes sense. But since we're on the topic of local movements, I assume that you're familiar with Larry Sharp, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of people
love Larry.
Called him probably the most influential person in either the Libertarian Party or the Libertarian movement right now, just because what he's saying is so it's not as controversial as what people like Starr are saying. What do you think of his strategy of building up from the local level?
Well, I love it. The Libertarian Party was built on a ground up platform. That's how we're supposed to run. And Larry's a very intelligent guy. He knows a lot about this party and a lot about the movement and the philosophy in general, as shown through many speaking engagements. So I think that's a really good idea. I really do. As the national chair, my goal would be to enable our local leaders and our state leaders to run their organizations well. It wouldn't be for me to come in and step in and tell all the states what they're doing wrong and tell them what they need to do. It's just being there and being able to enable them and help them grow their organizations and their affiliations. So
awesome. So now I'd like to ask about another important figure in the liberty movement that's gotten some, I guess, crap lately for a few changes he's made, but Austin Peterson. He ran for the LP as president in 2016, and now he is running as a Republican against Claire McCaskill for Senate. What would you say to people who are, I guess, looking away from the LP and looking to the Republican Party? Do you think he made a wise decision, or would you want him to come back?
Well, I don't know if I would call it a wise decision. I think Austin Peterson's very well known, and a lot of people in the LP are very mad at him because he used a lot of our resources to make a name for himself, and then he switched over to the GOP and ran as GOP. Now, if that's better for Austin, that's better for Austin. It's definitely not better for the LP, but I'm not mad at Austin. I think that Austin's doing what he thinks he needs to do to better his political career, and I think that his step away from the Libertarian Party is just more of a testament to the problems that we're having in the Libertarian Party. It's more of the retention issues. We need to enable our candidates, period, and we need to step outside of our normal Libertarian Party thinking and say, we have candidates that are running in droves all over the country and they need help and they're going to need help. And I think I was just talking to, who was I talking to? I don't remember, but so National has a $1.5 million budget, and only $10,000 of that budget goes to the state parties. I mean, all the state parties as a whole, and we have candidates running in every state, and we just finally are looking for a candidate support position after, Nick put out the resume attention. I think it was his third year in the chair position. This is something that we should have done a long time ago, but I don't think our focus in the LP has been on recruiting candidates or the retention of membership. So I think that Austin's just a big testament to the problems that we're currently seeing in the LP and our retention issues. And I think, if going to the GOP works better for Austin, then that's great. But I would like to get Austin back. I would like to get everyone back, so that's my goal.
Awesome. Okay, so I'd like to focus back a little bit more on the LP type stuff. I know I took us down a little bit of a rabbit trail by bringing up AP, but you mentioned Dankertarians earlier and how you were part of founding that. Recently on their Facebook, they voiced support for the Libertarian Socialist Caucus. As chairman, what would you do about these people that are so radically opposed to the ideas of liberty, such as the Socialists?
Well, I think this goes back into my initial comments on principle. I think I would be much more vocal about those within the movement, that wish to subvert our message. And, I think a lot of people are looking at this caucus as a small thing, and we have caucuses throughout the United States of all different types, and they're all a little bit influential when it comes to the national convention time and having delegates. Some may only get 2 or 3 delegates some can get 30, you never know. So I think that we really need to take that kind of stuff seriously when we have a group of people who are officers in their state and local parties saying that they wish to change our statement of principles to reflect rent being theft and capitalism being murder and profits being murder. And we need a top echelon leadership that's going to really speak out on that kind of stuff. And I think that's where we start. We start by voicing our concerns with those people that are trying to subvert our principles. So
awesome. Yeah, I love to see you speaking out against that. Been running into those posts way too often on Facebook, and I'm always just you guys are a joke. Come on, why it's gonna be like this?
It's pretty bad. And and the two founders of that, one of them is a local affiliate officer, and the other one is a state affiliate officer. And as a state committeeman and also as a local committeeman, I would be calling that stuff out right now. And it doesn't seem that those states are. And as a leader of the national committee, I would like to be able to talk with those states and say, hey, can we just look over what's going on here and see what can be done about it? Because we can't have people out there spreading that message with the libertarian banner above their head, So it's definitely something that needs to be looked into more by leadership and not just taken as a a troll, because it's not. So
right. Okay, so this really kind of brings up, well, okay, you brought up people like Tom Woods and the Mises Institute earlier in the interview, and a lot of people across both journalism and the internet have really divided up the libertarian ideologies as left and right, with things like the Mises Institute being on the right, and then things like the LP being on the left, just like very loosely.
right.
Do you think that the terms right and left have been kind of watered down to where you can throw anyone into like any section that you feel like?
Yeah, so I think the left and right spectrum is a political economic spectrum, and I don't think that the libertarians necessarily fall on either side of that spectrum. I think we fall on the do whatever you want as long as you don't infringe on the rights of others spectrum. So I don't see Tom Woods and Jeff Deist and these types in the Mises Institute. I don't see them as a right wing political ideology. Maybe they have right wing economics, but and maybe sometimes they're more culturally conservative or whatever they want to call it. But when it comes down to it, they support the non-aggression principle. They support freedom for all. They support not infringing on the rights of others. So, and then we have some more of the left-leaning libertarians that are in the Libertarian Party who, support cultural freedoms and they really support the same thing. At the end of the day, they both support the same thing. They both support cultural and economic freedom as long as you don't, step on the rights of other people. So, yeah, I think the right and left ideology thing gets thrown around a lot. And I've said in a video recently that, the libertarians are neither right or left. We're simply free. And I believe that to be true. I don't think there is any right or left in the Libertarian Party. I think we all fall under the nap, so.
Right. Yeah. So kind of to finish off this thing, what you voiced concern for earlier was retention.
Right.
And I'd really like to dig in on that. Like, what do you think some of the causes of that lack of retention are, and how are you going to fix it?
Right. So I don't really want to get too much into what I believe those retention issues are caused from. Obviously, there's been some bad messaging. There's been some bad outreach. And we've had some candidates that some people may not have liked as much as others. But what it comes down to at the end of the day is we are losing those people. We do have a retention problem, no matter how many excuses are made, and we have to find a way to rectify that, especially in the current political climate. It's affording us a very unique opportunity to do outreach and education to those who are politically jaded and capitalize on those people. And I think that finding an emotional connection with the public is right in my wheelhouse. I'm passionate about liberty, and I can be loud, very, very loud, more loud than some of the others I've seen in the Libertarian National Committee. And like Larry says, we have to win the hearts and minds of these people. So when people come to the Libertarian National Party and they give their monthly donation, we should really be jumping on those people immediately. These are our new members. These people are the most excited about spreading the liberty. They're the front line of our outreach machine. They're the first people that we should be pulling in and saying, hey, here's some brochures. Here's how you get in contact with your local and state affiliates. These are the kind of things that the affiliates need. These are the candidates you have running in your area. Here's what you can do. Help. And I think that first and foremost is the first way we can retain these new members. We get these new members around election time, and then they leave after election because no one's talked to them. They're giving money to the party to help with the presidential election, but nobody makes them feel like they're part of a party. It took me 5.5 months to get my libertarian card. It's a problem, and like I said earlier, I don't think the focus has been on recruiting candidates or the retention of memberships at the national level. And I think if we spend a little more time putting together onboarding kits for new members, or I'm ready to deploy an inter-party relations team to help strengthen the party around our core principles. And I believe in turn this will help those within the movement on the outside of the party who may have had reservations about joining to find the push that they needed. Any kind of public relations, digital marketing, like I said earlier, an omni-channel marketing campaign. There's a lot of ways that we can be retaining these people, but the national committee has not been focused on that. So I think if we focus more on marketing, we focus more on outreach, we focus on a team who can put together public relations, especially digitally, to unite anarchists and minarchists, and maybe some of even the more statusy people that want to find liberty but don't really know what they're looking for. I think we can really change and make a very successful run at the two big parties. So
awesome. Love to hear it. Love what your plans are. Thank you all for listening. See you next time.